Lawrence case. To what degree can you assure us, or to what steps have you taken to make sure similar past instances haven't taken place within West Midlands?
Well, clearly we hope such matters haven't taken place in the West Midlands, and we hope that the measures that we've taken in terms of to ensure appropriate accountability are working, though clearly there's always the issue as to what degree you are picking up what is actually the reality of the situation. But I know we do have a very proactive team in the Professional Standards Department who are rooting out corruption and inappropriate practice, and that action has been taken against a number of officers for breaches of the standards that the community would expect them to be adhering to.
Switching to another subject, spending review was announced yesterday. More cuts towards police. ACCI came out and said if they had to make all of those savings in frontline officers, there'd be another 9,000 on top of their original estimates. What do you believe the impact will be on frontline policing in this?
So that's very much in line with my calculations for the West Midlands. The problem is, of course, is when 80-85% of your costs, depending on which force you're in, are to do with staff. You can cuts of this magnitude unfortunately can't avoid touching posts. So regretfully, police officer staff posts will go. Clearly there's every intention to try and protect the key services that matter to people, but the reality of the situation is if you take away too many of the services that are needed to provide that essential backup to frontline police officers, the reality of the situation is you'll be moving police officers away from those frontline services into those support functions where they're frankly not trained for. They're a very expensive commodity and could probably do less well than those professional staff they'd be replacing. The reality of the position, if all fell on non-police officers, you'd effectively be having police officers back doing almost every function up to and possibly including cleaning the toilets.
And we've seen one possible solution. We've seen Lincolnshire highlight this week the number of efficiency savings they've made in public-private partnerships with G4S. Is this an area that you'd consider or look more to develop?
Well, I haven't seen the full details of that, though. The figures they're actually quoting seem to be a fraction of the amount of money that the West Midlands has saved without needing to engage in that outsourcing route to the private sector. Clearly the private sector have a contribution to make and do provide various key services already, and clearly in things like information technology we believe they possibly have a slightly growing structure, but I do believe it's actually essential that people are confident that policing services are being driven by the needs of law and order, the needs of the treating people fairly under the community, and aren't being driven by ensuring you generate profits for private shareholders. So I'm personally of the view that we are actually achieving better efficiencies than Lincolnshire and maintaining that accountability to the public.
And so finally, if not the outsourcing route, what do you see as the key potential solutions in the current climate?
Well, clearly we're very much exploring ways of using technology to provide the same level of service with lower numbers of police officers and staff, which in fact is inevitable due to the government costs. So there's a whole series of other measures going on. We're looking about, we've just agreed to move one of our central police stations into the civic centre across the border in Warsaw, which we believe is a win-win solution. It saves money, but it gives a more central access point. It gives co-location of policing teams and community safety teams, and it's a one-stop shop for the community, as well as making other police stations more sustainable. So something there we believe offers a better service, and we've managed to save a lot of money on bricks and mortar, which means we can keep more police officers and staff that support them, maintaining the frontline services that the community require. One of the things that very much came home to me when I was very active in custody visiting, which I believe was a crucial assurance to the community about the treatment of people taken into custody. And when I was going out, the number of people who, particularly those taken into custody for not committing any criminal offence, supposedly for their own protection through the Section 136 procedure, the number of people that occupied police cells and the distress that they were clearly in through being in those police cells, where frankly people with mental illnesses, if you want to think about the worst place you could possibly take them to help that mental illness, it's clearly a police cell. So I saw that at first hand. I was also involved nationally. In fact, the first ever meeting of the Custody Visitors Association nationally, I chaired here in Wolverhampton, and that pattern came through from every single part of the country, from every single custody visitor. The other good bit of good practice, and it was interesting that I was chairing Lord Victor reporting on his commission last week at a national event in Manchester, and of the 3 questions Lord Victor was asked, 2 of them he replied by quoting the authoritative source of Inspector Michael Brown. Now, Inspector Michael Brown is a West Midlands police officer. I think I know some of you follow him. It's hashtag mental health cop. I would advocate to anywhere in the country have a mental health police professional champion like Michael Brown, because while we have got, we have got the local leads, we've got the local training, we've got the local policies and practice. Me telling police officers, this is a good idea. This is core police work. This is really, helpful to you. It obviously carries some weight, even senior officers. We have some present around the room telling police officers that it's in their interest and the community's interest and the individual they're offering a service to's interest. Frankly, it comes so much better from a frontline practitioner like Michael, who can actually drive that through, really has credibility with all of the officers. And the only disadvantage of his national fame is we keep losing him. He was in Kent last week, training up police officers in Kent, but he really is an absolute asset to the West Midlands and policing up and down the country.